Welcome to the Celebrating Women podcast. Mandee and Ashley Fisher dig into conversation about women, their issues, their thoughts, their lives, and celebrate their gifts, their talents, their courage. It's the Celebrating Women podcast, presented by Hand and Stone Massage and Facial Spa in Tyler, Texas. Hey, it's Mandee, and you know I love to relax, right? I love telling you all about the incredible staff at Hand and Stone Massage and Facial Spa in Tyler. This time, I want to tell you about Alex. First off, it took me years to feel comfortable going to male therapists, but I've been so impressed by the professionalism at Hand and Stone Massage and Facial Spa in Tyler. They always make me feel so at ease. So recently I scheduled a dual service day with a massage and facial. Pro tip, schedule your massage before your facial. Alex was amazing right from the start. I told him my neck and shoulders were the areas of focus, and he started there with some swift circular movements that got the blood flowing. He also incorporated hot towels to keep the muscles loose when he worked on my legs, hand, and feet, which, by the way, was exceptional. His might be my favorite hand and foot massage ever. Schedule your next massage right now by visiting Hand and Stone Massage and Facial Spa, located in the Cumberland Shopping Center, or book online at handandstonetyler.com. Welcome back to the Celebrating Women podcast. I'm Mandee Ungefer, cracking up Ashley Fisher.
Hello, I'm Ashley Fisher, trying to get my words out of my brain, out of the mouth hole.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I think it's important for us to just be real sometimes too. And so we've been processing a little bit this afternoon, and then we were like, how are we going to start this? I'm just going to start it.
Yeah.
And
pretty much.
So we've been, some of the topics we've talked about recently have been kind of heavy and have revolved around like seeking help, professional help, but also seeking help from your friends. And so like just talking about what's going on. And so in our conversations, we were like, maybe we should just talk about the fact that we talk to each other. And when to know like when that is good.
Yes.
And sometimes when
you need a little bit more.
When you need more. Yeah. Because we had our good friend Carlene in on the last episode, and, she fantastically shared about her course that she's created that will be available soon, and the workbook. And a lot of that is work that you do on your own, but sometimes you do need to talk to somebody. You need to say it out loud. And Ashley knows this about me. Some of our listeners might as well, but I need to say things out loud to process them. Imagine that. But I do. It helps me work through things. I enjoy journaling too.
Yeah.
Words in general, but actually hearing myself say things out loud, it helps me process.
Yeah. Well, and I think there's like two layers to like what we're wanting to get to today. Like we have an episode coming up with an amazing therapist.
She is extraordinary.
She was, it was such a good conversation. And, a lot of us, we live in this age where we are more connected than ever before because of technology, but in some strange way, we are more isolated than ever before because we can make our lives look however we want them to look on social media.
Oh, yeah.
We edit our own face before we put it up for people to see. Like we now it's like we're uncomfortable with the real and the raw. You know what I mean?
I totally do.
And it's all the selfies' fault, but and filters and all that. Not to say that those things are bad, but I do think they speak to a larger issue that's evolved in that I feel like that more and more we are forgetting how to have meaningful conversations with our friends to really knock out like, hey, how are you actually doing? And some of us just having that much vulnerability with people that know us well is really scary. And then the second layer to that is, when does it come to a point where it's not helpful to just go to friends or to just go to family, because at a certain point, you're going to remain in an echo chamber if you're just kind of dealing with like your very best friend who would kill for you. And so she's going to agree with whatever you have to say and be on your side. You like, when does that third party come into play who has an extra special set of skills.
Yes, and that's objective, that has
Yes.
some objectivity that can
Mhm.
be like, so I'm glad you have somebody in your life that's championing, I can't say it. Your championing you. I can't do it. It's fine. That's your champion that's in your corner.
Yeah,
That's a good thing.
right. It's a
And-
necessary thing.
And also, let's look at this through an objective lens
Mhm.
and maybe take a look in the mirror as to, are we being reactive?
Mm-hmm.
Because your best friend's going to have your back, and she should.
Mm-hmm.
I've
That's what your best friend's for.
That's what they're for. But your therapist
yes.
is the person that can ask you the hard questions.
Yep.
And can challenge you a little bit more to maybe see your behavior in a new light,
Mhm.
or even behavior of others around you. I mean, you can't change them, but you can change how you react, right? So
Mhm.
if you're in a situation where, you don't feel good about yourself, like maybe you're feeling unworthy, or you're feeling like really hurt, or you're questioning a lot of your decisions, you might be surrounded by people who are manipulating you and harming you.
Mm-hmm.
And you may not realize it because they're good at what they do.
Yeah.
I mean, it happens. And
Yeah.
especially if you are a kind and empathetic and loving person that's generous of your time and your heart, people can sometimes take advantage of that and maybe even not be aware that they're doing it.
Mm.
But if you don't reach out and say, hey, I'm feeling unworthy, I'm hurting,
Mm-hmm.
then, and your best friend's probably not gonna be able to identify that, right? Like
No, because they are a part of that culture as
Mhm.
well,
Mhm.
and they don't see it,
Mhm. And for that matter, depending on the situation, they could be in it with you.
Exactly. Feeling the same way.
Right.
And unaware that it is the people that you would say are your closest friends and confidants.
Mm-hmm.
Unaware,
it can happen. It can happen
Mm-hmm.
in marital relationships too, where you just slip into these patterns and you don't even realize it. And the next thing you know, you're questioning, like, why do I feel so bad about myself? Why do I feel unattractive or unloved or unworthy of someone's love? And could there be things that you could change?
Mm-hmm.
Your behavior? Yes. Are there maybe some things you need to recognize going on in your environment?
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe some people you need to get away from. Maybe you need to do a job change. It could, it could be a lot of different things. But I think that sometimes when you're in that spot and you're going to your friend repeatedly and you're asking for help or venting,
Mm-hmm.
at some point, there's got to be like, okay.
And maybe the litmus test is, how often do the two of you get into this conversation? Is it every single time you're together? And if so, then you're just talking about it. You're not actually doing any work. You're not actually processing it in a way to make the necessary change.
Mhm.
And that, I think, is where therapy comes in. Because a good therapist is going to be able to acknowledge and affirm all of your feelings and give you insight to, hey, yeah, that relationship, that sounds like you're dealing with a narcissist. Or, hey, like that, that circumstance that you were in for so long, that sounds like spiritual abuse.
Yeah.
That's when, if we stay in the echo chambers of our closest friends, we're very rarely are we going to have those sorts of moments that turn the light bulb on and go, oh,
Right.
oh.
Like when we talked to Dawn Livingstone a few
Mhm.
episodes ago, she was talking about how she had kind of a light bulb moment
Yeah.
that she was in a toxic relationship that she needed to leave. But
Yeah.
it's like when you're in it for so long,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you do get kind of like literally knocked down
Right.
to wake you up. But
Mhm.
other times it can be just, are you repeatedly having the same
Mhm.
frustrated conversation with your friend?
Yeah.
And reaching out for help it's important. And there are so many resources now.
Mhm.
We're very excited to share our conversation with Celeste. Is it
Mhm.
Smith? Is that her last name? Next week with you. And she is a resource, but she's also going to share some additional resources and guides for if, maybe you need to start on your own, read a book, listen to a podcast.
Mhm.
But there are like, I can't remember what it is, but there's like online therapy now too.
Yeah.
Is it Good Help? It's something like that. I need to double check it.
Yeah.
but where you can reach out and you can like get to know various therapists, do a consultation, figure out who your fit is, and like work through some of this stuff.
And just have, over this last year, like, my husband and I went through maybe a couple of really big transitions that were kind of earth-shattering to the way in which we had done things for almost 2 decades. And within that, we just knew we need an outside source who understands all the layers to this, but who can speak to us in an unbiased way. And, for us, that was seeking out really wise counsel and going to therapy, just saying, hey, here's what's happened, and just dealing with the emotional part of it. And then we also sought out, counsel from somebody who is far removed from the situation, doesn't know all the players and pieces of the puzzle, but understands the game, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And we were able to go to him and say, hey, here's what happened. And can you tell us, did we handle it right? Did we handle it wrong? Like, we are an open book, but what's your thought? Because the people who are smack dab in the middle of it have their opinions. We have our opinions. Can you shed some light? And he was able to, and that brought us so much peace and closure.
Right.
And, again, just having that outside party that has an authority in that space, be it mental health or whatever, is just so, so, so helpful, because inevitably they're going to have a perspective that you've never thought of before.
Oh, yeah. And probably challenge you in some ways to think not just about, not just their perspective, but I find sometimes when someone else shares their perspective with me, I have an internal shift and I start seeing things from an even different perspective. Like not just mine, not just what they suggested, but something wholly different where I'm like, oh, okay, well, that was an earth-shattering realization. Maybe I could have some control in this, some agency and ability to like either advocate for myself, change some behavior, remove myself from whatever situation. I mean, it's just, it's really interesting. When we were visiting with Celeste, it was interesting that this came up with us. Obviously, I think Ashley and I've shared this, neither one of us have a background in therapy.
Right.
At all. Like, we're not trying to say that we're here for that. This is not medical
qualified.
advice. This is not official counseling. No, we're not qualified in that. But what we find is we don't do surface conversations very well for very long.
Right.
We can have them, but
for about a hot second.
Then
we're digging deeper.
Yeah. And it's like, how did that make you feel? Or why do you think you did that? Or, it's just looking for depth.
Yeah.
And I think that was circling back to your point about like social media and how we interact with each other so much online. There isn't a lot of depth there.
Yeah.
Often. Some people do. Some people give us too much. But, I think there's not a lot of constructive, deep conversation. And I think it's easy to hide behind a keyboard when somebody does share something thought-provoking, heartfelt, or maybe challenging. I think sometimes you get keyboard warriors that come out of nowhere that just have a wry comment.
With confident thumbs.
Yes, confident thumbs, sometimes with anger and fear. And they don't even realize that that's where they're coming from, right? They're just reacting.
Right.
And I think that that's how a lot of us feel. I mean, I tend to not engage in that.
Yeah.
And my life is a highlight reel on social media. Like, it's rare that I share something that's really vulnerable.
Yeah.
I'm not, it's not that I'm dishonest. I wouldn't say that, but I just, things where I feel like I'm putting my heart on the line where those keyboard warriors might show up. I don't do it often, but I guess the only thing I've really probably been vulnerable about on social media, it's the same that I share here, and it's mental health.
Yeah.
Because I feel like it's so important. I know May was like Mental Health Awareness Month. I don't care. I'm going to talk about it all year.
Oh, yeah.
It's been a struggle for my family for generations.
Yep.
And especially for my brother, he really, really struggles. But if I'm being honest, I really struggle with it too.
Yeah.
I've had to be very intentional with who I choose to spend my time with, the things that I look at. We talked about it on the curating podcast. You know, I've had to be really intentional about those things because I can go to a dark place internally pretty easily.
Yeah.
It's there. And I think it's there for a lot of people. We just don't talk about it.
Well, and in those moments, a pat on the back or, hey, I'm here for you. If you need anything, you just let me know. If you need anything is only going to go so far, because when you're in that place, you're not letting anybody know nothing. More than likely, you're isolating. You're not calling anybody and saying, I'm in a dark place. Can you reach out and help me? No, we don't do that. I mean, very few people do that. And so this is where I have come over the last few years, I have come to the conclusion that no matter who you are, no matter where you're from, no matter how high and pretty you're sitting, everybody needs therapy. Everybody. I don't care if you've had the best, most amazing childhood and you just ride a unicorn to work every day. And I mean, life is great and grand. I'm so happy for you, truly. And you need therapy. Everybody does, because nobody's life is perfect. We all have had trauma. We have all had things that hurt us, that impact us, that cause adverse reactions in us. You know, like there's a reason why there are videos on YouTube of women and men just snapping in the McDonald's line. They did not get there in 10 seconds. That was a slow build, and that McDonald's wrong order. It was just the straw that broke the camel's back.
I have to look those videos
Listen,
up.
Bradley, it's strange. He's like, I just can't look
into
away.
that?
He is. He
like a
will
train
watch
wreck?
these videos, and I can't stand it. I'm like, I can't watch that. But I just truly believe that everybody needs it. And I think, you know, with my background too, in being raised in the church, now I have a real passion for people who are in the church to realize that therapy should go along with your spiritual journey.
Yes.
It should not be one or the other, because prayer works and it's powerful. And God speaks, I believe, and a sermon can change your life, or a scripture can change your life. And you can also tend to get into your own echo chamber, even with that didn't go to school for mental health. You know, there are things said from the platform in churches that are just doggone unhealthy when it comes to mental health. You know, and you've got to have...
And it's ignorance.
It's
not coming from a place of intentional harm.
No, of course not. But, you know, when you, in addition to all of those good things, you know, and this is, if you go to church or you don't go to church, I just have a particular passion now for people who have been in the church who think that mental health professionals are not necessary because I can go pray about it. Yes, you can. And
you can go to therapy.
Yes, and it can coincide and be a beautiful thing, and you are going to get a perspective that your pastor is not trained in.
Yes.
They're just not.
They're just not educated with the same background, you know?
Yeah.
And I think I've been around it a lot. I went when I was a child to family counseling when my parents divorced. I've gone a couple of times on my own as an adult for various things. And my best friend is trained in dialectical behavior therapy and has her doctorate in psychology. And so we have conversations around skills and coaching. And I mean, she can't be my therapist, and I don't know, ask her to be, you know, but she can share with me life skills that she also shares with her clients that are helpful. And they are like coping mechanisms that, I mean, we all have different ones, right? Like some people it manifests in a healthy way where they exercise, right? Like sometimes when I get really frustrated and really angry, I will like run or I will get on the Peloton and just go bananas, like all out, because it helps me channel all of that frustration and that energy physically out of my body.
Right. Yeah.
Or I'll go to yoga to calm down. Like if I, or even to like lift my spirits. If I'm really feeling down, to me, that is one of the most beautiful places to go. And it's so quiet.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yet I've got this intentional movement happening in my body and it's so balanced and beautiful. But like, those are things that I've learned work for me over time. Other people drink or do drugs or maybe they have other healthy coping mechanisms. It's different for each person. But like if nobody tells you that there are resources and even like free resources like online, like YouTube and podcasts that are available to you. If one person's not your cup of tea, that doesn't mean you stop.
No, and that doesn't mean that all, mental health professionals are quacks or they're this or that, it really is just a matter of interview until you find the one that fits for you,
Yeah.
I just think this is such an important topic, especially, for women. We talk about this in the episode with Celeste, but we women have a tendency to get tunnel visioned and just push through whatever ails us. And social media touts that as being superheroes. And it makes us be like, yeah, you're the best. When really like that can be such an unhealthy way of living. And everybody has a stopping place. Everybody has a place where they're going to hit a wall. And I think my encouragement would be if you have really good friends who have substance and depth and who you trust and you can go to them and they can be those safe spaces to listen to you and hold space for you, then that needs to be a part of your life for sure. And when there are things that just you keep going around the mountain on and they just kind of won't let go of you and you keep having these same conversations and you're not getting anywhere, I think that's the point where it's like, you know what, let me just go and see, what maybe I can find out or what tools I can gain from going to a therapist. And too, like we've got to deal with our past. We've got to deal with the things that have hurt us, that have traumatized us, because they impact our thoughts now, which impact our reactions now. And that eventually that's going to lead us in a direction down the road. And I would much rather be down the road because of healthier unctions as opposed to, oh, I'm here because my line of traumatic triggers kind of pushed me in this direction. Like I'm stubborn enough, like, no, I'm not doing that.
Well, we've said this so many times on the podcast, hurt people hurt people.
Yeah.
But we can be the hurt people that hurt people sometimes.
Yes.
Like that's us as well. And so it's like, if we're not taking care of ourselves, then we can unintentionally be hurting our friends, our family, our coworkers, and they're probably not going to speak up about it and say you need therapy.
No, I mean, more than likely. I mean, if they do, then good on you because they're a great friend. But it's in little things too. We think that this all equates to like these big, actionable items, but really, if you're a boss and you you dismiss your employees and their ideas and you say it's because of this or this, but really it's because you're struggling with this insecurity that if you cater to their idea, it somehow makes you seem less than. You need therapy. And it's because that's a trauma response. It's something in your past that has told you've started to believe a lie about yourself, and that then filters into everything that you do.
And your employees do.
Yeah.
And the productivity of your team.
And then your
overall.
company. I mean,
yeah,
and so it
ripples big time.
Huge ripple effects. And so why not just go do something that, contributes to health? Like before I got here, I was at Integrative Health Matters getting like nutrition IV therapy. And why not? I mean, it's nutrients to my body that my body needs, and I feel better.
Right.
Was it 1,000% necessary? Nah,
But you felt like you needed a boost.
I did. And
So you were proactive.
Yeah. And I was proactive. I went and did the thing, and I feel better. So, and now that I feel better, I've got more energy to go throughout my day, to be present with my kids, as opposed to how I felt a few hours ago. I would have been like, can I go to bed now, please? Y'all get out of my face. I love you.
And there's so many different ways to do that,
Yeah.
whether it's IV therapy or nutritional supplements or drinking more water. Please drink more water. Please, please, please. You will be amazed how much better you feel. Like little things that you can do to just take care of yourself. But also like we talked about it a little bit with Celeste. We talk a little bit more about it and get her perspective in the next episode. But even just going to therapy to get like a baseline.
Yes.
You know, like when I went a few years ago because I had kind of a triggering moment at work, I didn't know how long it was going to take me to process through that. I didn't know if I was going to like be unleashing things from childhood for the next 5 years. You know, I mean, I thought that was maybe a possibility.
Yeah.
I've been through some stuff, but it wasn't.
Yeah.
She gave me homework. I did the homework. I scheduled appointments. I think I went to 4 appointments over the course of maybe like 6 or 8 weeks. And she was like, you're good.
You're all right. Yeah.
Unless you're not,
Then come
call
back.
me.
Yeah.
But you don't need to come weekly.
Right.
I mean, so it's not like you have to enter into this with like an expectation of spending thousands of dollars to like really dig into your child. Like, I've got some things I could dig into. I really do. But I don't necessarily need the additional expense. But when things come up, I have someone I can call.
Yeah. Who knows you, who knows your baseline, who knows like, hey, this does seem to be affecting you. Why do you think that is? And they know those conversations too. I think what's important too is that you may have an hour with that therapist, and that hour is going to be productive. Whereas you can spend 5 hours with your friend over a glass of wine or 2 or 3 and it not be nearly as productive. You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, you walk out of that office with a few tools under your tool belt that you didn't have before, or a few things to think about and come back with later. The very first time that I went to therapy as an adult, I went really for a short period of time. And we got to this place where it was kind of the same thing. It was like, well, you know, we ended up we were starting to like chit chat like friends. And it was like, yeah, I think the therapy part, I think we're good. And then I was done for a while. And then we had a traumatic thing happen with our son. So I picked it back up and stayed a little longer. And I'm just, you know, now it's just a part of life, you know, and for my kids, I want it to be a part of their life. Like, you know, I want, you know, really a goal of mine is for them to have that consistently in their life so that when they're out of my house, that they know like, oh yeah, I can just, if I'm having, you know, whatever, I can talk to my mom and my dad, I can pray, I can talk to so-and-so, and also I can go to my therapist, you know, like it's just, we have these amazing resources around us. Like you said, like, why not use them? Because somebody out there has a perspective that you don't, that you need. And you haven't been getting it so far. So why not go find the people that can help you out?
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
We say that with all the love in our hearts.
So much love and just appreciation for the fact that it is becoming more common.
Yeah.
You know, I think generationally, we talk a little bit about this with Celeste, but generationally, it's been challenging for our parents, their parents. There's a lot of stigma. You know, I think your kids, the teenagers that are coming up, that are about to be in adulthood, you know, these generations are much more open to it because there's been conversations in our culture that are more open to mental health. But I think it's on us too. I mean, I'm kind of in the same boat with you. I'm on the older millennial side. Like I'm almost in the gap between Gen X and millennials. Like it's kind of a weird spot to be generationally, but you know, I think it's on us as we're, you know, entering midlife and beyond.
That sounds weird.
It is. It is weird, but we are. I mean, I probably have had about half my lifespan here. We are generationally leaders at this
Right.
point in our life.
Right.
And if we are not speaking up and advocating for the young people in our lives and encouraging them to do this work,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
who is?
Yeah. Yeah. And I just like, I love people, and I mean, the whole reason that this project got started was I love women.
Mm-hmm.
And if I can ever write any woman a permission slip to do something healthy for herself, I will do it.
Same.
And this, I feel like, if anybody has been needing the permission slip to go and do this, here it is. Like, here's your sign. Like, just go do it.
Yeah.
Because, and again, if the first go around isn't like great and you're not meshing well, there are others. You know, we can suggest some great places to start here in Tyler that are excellent.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Celeste Smith is fabulous, and Solace is a wonderful place. Alethea, like, there's just so many great places to go to start if you deal with depression, if you deal with anxiety, or if you just have something that, and just don't do this. Don't do that. Well, somebody else has it so much worse. Like, no, your experience matters because it's affected you. I don't care what it is. I don't
valid.
care if your brother ate your birthday cake and that impacted you, because that did happen to me.
Did it?
He did. He ate my birthday cake. The whole cake when I was a kid. He ate the whole thing. It was my birthday cake. I'm fine, though.
I mean, yes. And that's traumatic.
But you know, like,
because it's your birthday, and that's a really special moment as a child. And
yes.
it's over exaggerated, celebrated for children. I love it. I'm all about celebrating every moment of life, actually. but especially for little kids, like, that's a huge thing.
Well, and so
how old were you?
What birthday was that? It was a SpongeBob cake. I know
So you
that.
were young.
I was fairly young. Well, you know what? If it was SpongeBob, I think it was like my 14th. I don't know why in the world at 14 I had SpongeBob. I
It was
thought
popular.
it was funny.
Yeah.
Oh, I know why. I'll know why. Okay, if you've been around me, here's a little, I'm outing myself, but there's a character in SpongeBob named Patrick,
Mm-hmm.
and I was in love with Patrick. So I'll put it that way.
Patrick the starfish.
Yeah. Yeah. But I wasn't in love with the starfish. I was in love with a person.
You were a 14-year-old girl. That's allowed. Starfish or not. Whether he's identifying as a starfish or a 14-year-old young man in Tyler, Texas or East Texas or whatever.
I really need our listeners to know that I was not in love with a starfish.
I'm teasing you. I apologize for teasing you.
That's why I picked the cake, because SpongeBob and Patrick was on it, and I was a weird kid, y'all. So
sounds like you were a delightful child.
I was something else. Anyway, so oh Lord,
Middle
where
school
were we?
crushes.
Oh man,
Aren't they fun?
That was something else. That was really something else. But anyway, where was I going?
Your brother ate your birthday
He
cake.
did.
He
Bless
ate the
his
whole
soul.
cake.
He did. Oh, I went in like the next day because I wanted to go have a piece, and
Yeah.
by that point, a lot of it had been eaten.
Sure.
But there was still some left, and I went in and it was gone. I was like, so. But some people, like, honestly, I can say that in a joking manner because I really am okay. I'm not traumatized by it. But some people have experiences like that
Mm-hmm.
that really have affected you. Some people have that experience, and what that told them was, I'm not significant.
Yeah.
I'm not loved. My brother doesn't care because he just went and ate my whole celebratory cake that was for me. And it matters, like, honestly, now that it must mean something to me.
Or you wouldn't be sharing it now.
Or it would not have even come to my mind. So maybe I need to take that to Celeste and go, what about my SpongeBob cake?
No, but really, like, I mean, I've had moments with cake too.
What is our thing with cake today?
I mean, cake it's a lovely thing.
It is.
I mean, and we both we've shared this before, but we can share it again. We both have had issues with food, disordered eating,
Mm-hmm.
and we talked about it on another podcast. I mean, that's for our generation. What we were shown as idealistic beauty was unattainable for most body types.
Yeah.
And so it's I mean, it messed with us, you know? I mean, it's something I've never unpacked in therapy, probably should.
Mhm.
I'd probably feel better about my body image. I mean, it's not something that I struggle with like every single day, but I have moments where I look in the mirror and I see something that is different than what is
Mhm.
actually there.
Right. That's little body dysmorphia.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think there are a lot of women that struggle with that because I'll see a picture of myself next to a friend who I think is very small, beautiful, just has a beautiful body type. And I'll see myself next to her and my body type is similar, but what I see in the mirror is somebody that's heavy or too round or just weird stuff that's not real.
And that's the thing, your mind can play tricks on you.
Yeah.
Your eyes can play tricks on you. And these places that are deeply rooted, that are like SpongeBob places in your life, you know, I mean, they deserve you taking the time to bring them out into the light, analyze them with somebody who has been educated with tools to navigate how that impacts your future. Because more than likely you've picked up a wrong belief from somewhere, figure out where that came from, and then figure out how you can reframe that belief so that you can walk in more victory, more freedom. Like, who wouldn't want that? And I don't also want to sound like I'm trying to guilt anybody into therapy, because I know that can be scary as hell.
Yes.
And I remember
it
I
is
was
scary to look at our own
boots.
stuff.
Yes.
Yes, it is.
I was scared to death to go to therapy the first time.
I was too.
I really was. And, you know, I think that now, having some time under my belt, what I've gotten out of it, it far outweighs any kind of fear that I ever had going into it. And I'm better because of it. And it strengthens my faith for those that struggle with that piece of it. You know, it's not an either or. And so, yeah, we need to reach out.
For sure. For sure. And we'll list some resources in the show notes, some that we've talked about. And then I'll dig in and I'll look up a few more, because there are things that I'm thinking about that I've heard of that are online resources that you could literally click and go get some information and talk to somebody ASAP.
Yep.
Like telehealth style.
Yeah.
I'll dig in and I'll share some of those too. Are they going to be free? Maybe, maybe not. I mean, you might be investing in some stuff, but there are also, you know, depending on what you're going through, there's most likely someone sharing about it on a podcast, on a YouTube channel, on TikTok, on Instagram Reels, something. There is somewhere, and they're probably, if they're not digging into it deeply, they're pointing you to something that can, a book or another resource. And so, you know, if you're not quite ready to go bare your soul to someone, if that feels really scary, then start by maybe reading some books that have some journaling, you know, like what we were talking about with our friend Carlene in the previous episode. You know, her course is not a therapy. It's not like a one-on-one style course. It's you looking at your own stuff, being prompted and journaling through and doing the work. And her work, of course, is specific to divorce recovery, but there are other journals and workbooks and courses that you can find online depending on what you're going through, whether it is you're dealing with a narcissist or spiritual abuse, or maybe it's just you're dealing with a boss that is hurt, like you were describing earlier. I mean, I've had some really good bosses. I've had some really bosses that really needed to do some work, you know, and they didn't know. And I think a lot of us walk around not knowing, you know, until we do. And so if this is your wake up call, just know that you're supported.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
And there's resources and we'll be happy to share them. So Ashley, thank you for being my friend. Thank you for being somebody I can come to with deep conversation and somebody who's willing to share and be vulnerable and open about your experience to help others.
Yeah, thank you. Love you.
Love you too.
The Celebrating Women podcast wants to hear from you. Find us on social media at facebook.com/Celebrating Women Podcast or on Instagram, search Celebrating Women Podcast. You can also email us a voice message to celebratingwomenpodcast@gmail.com. We would love to hear your story or the story of an incredible woman you know. Send it to celebratingwomenpodcast@gmail.com. The Celebrating Women podcast is created and hosted by Mandee Montana and Ashley Fisher. Thank you so much for listening, and don't forget to subscribe to the Celebrating Women podcast.